Tribal Health and Human Services Department of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes is proud to present Good Medicine, a program dedicated to the wellness of the Flathead Nation. The mission is summarized quite simply: a healthier people, a stronger nation. We'll strive to make Good Medicine a reliable source of ideas and information about health issues so that everyone can make informed decisions about their own lifestyle and health care. You'll meet health professionals, tribal government and spiritual leaders, and interesting people from the tribal community discussing important health issues that profoundly affect us all.
Good afternoon, this is Roxana Colman-Herak, your host of Good Medicine today, and we have a guest today that is going to talk about some issues that probably a lot of you out there are familiar with. Maybe there's some that are not familiar with the topic of suicide, but we're going to kind of delve into suicide and why it's such a taboo topic and why there's such a stigma attached to the word. Michelle Lovato is our guest today, and she's going to be kind of taking us to her own experiences that kind of shows us what's in that hallway, that dark hallway when you find yourself standing in that hallway of suicidal ideation. So Michelle, first of all, thank you for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for not being afraid to talk about this big pink elephant in the room.
Oh, I'm pretty afraid, but I'm willing to talk anyway.
But you're willing to talk about it. And I think it goes to the whole issue of why suicide's such a taboo topic. People really are kind of afraid to talk about it. They're afraid that what they're feeling is abnormal.
I feel like when I was at that place and other subjects too along that line, that I'm like one of those soda bottles that's all shaken up, and if I talk about it, I'll be that tab and everything will just explode everywhere. And I won't be able to contain it or handle it or really do anything with it. But it's going to be a mess and it's going to be all over the place.
So did it make you feel crazy when you found yourself kind of thinking about some of the things that you were going through at that time?
No, it made me feel relieved because I was a young mother. I was pregnant with my third child. I had 2 toddlers. I had left my first husband. He was an alcoholic. I moved straight in with my second husband, who I've been married to for 23 years now. And on top of all of that, I had come from a really dysfunctional, abusive childhood, and I felt like I just didn't have the ability to pull it together. I just didn't. It's not even that I didn't know didn't have the skills, or I didn't have the coping mechanism, or I didn't have a friend. It's that I just didn't think I was gonna be one of those people that actually made it to the other end of the race. And I thought that, I'd be my kids, because at that time it was about my kids.
How long ago was this?
My children are now 26, 24, and 21. I was pregnant with my 21-year-old, so it was 20 years ago. But it was devastating, and I really did believe and convince myself that if I could just get out of the way, that I could take all of this dysfunction to my grave, and my children would have a better chance without me influencing them in that way, because other people could take care of them better than I could.
That's interesting you say that, because we've kind of been learning that. My husband and I both have been doing the Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training, and a lot of the research is showing that people who commit suicide actually feel like people would be better off without them, that they're a burden. So I think it's interesting that you said that and that you're kind of willing to share this.
A lot of people think that They think that those who commit suicide have to have the strength, but actually, really, you have to have the strength to keep living. And you have to, even though when you're in a crisis, even though like after you get through it, you realize, oh, thank God I did that. What a relief. But when you're there, it's a lot harder to leap than it is just to give up.
Well, let's go back 20 years and take a look at what was in that hallway for you at that particular time in your life. What was going on?
Well, like I said, I came from an abusive childhood. My father was a sex offender. He offended myself, my sister, many other kids. And my mother was a loving, terrified, abused wife who just really didn't know what to do other than just to protect what she thought was her family and to keep it quiet. And so by the time I married my first husband, it was told to me very clearly that I needed to keep my mouth shut, and this was something that I would be taking to my grave, because my father was really a good man underneath all of that. And so we would just sweep that under the rug. And I was married to my first husband. It was a choice that I made, but it was a choice that I made after my parents had convinced me that I wasn't gonna make it as a human if I didn't find somebody rich. So they dressed me real nice, and they make up to me and all of that, and they put me in a position where I couldn't really be with the man that I wanted to be with, that went to my church, that my heart was attached to. I had to really seek somebody that was going to be able to take care of me financially, and that person turned out to be probably the exact opposite of what I needed. Just really the exact opposite. So 5 years went by, 2 kids. He and I clearly weren't going to make it. He would rather not be at home, and I was terribly lonely. And so I did the cardinal sin, because I come from a Christian background, and I had an affair with another person and moved in with them and married him. And when I did that, I closed all of the doors to my family, who in their mind thought that they were decent, and to my in-laws, to my husband, to absolutely everything that I had. Then I jump into the second relationship, which is just wild and out of control and better, but definitely not stable. And there was nowhere to turn. My second husband that I've been married to now, I adore, and we've grown to become best friends. And we both got committed to each other and to learning how to deal with life. But at the beginning, it's not that we weren't committed to each other, it's that neither one of us knew what to do. But I was in a position where it was him or nothing. And I had worked as a reporter, and I knew that there were things in California at that time called the Haley House, and it's for battered women, and they're homeless shelters, and lots of outreaches for women that are kind of in my position. But I was too embarrassed. It took too much strength. It took too much of a leap of faith for me to even tell any of those people that I needed help, even though it was written all over my life. I couldn't bring myself to do it. It takes strength to do that.
It's really hard to ask for help, and I think that's the whole thing. One of the issues we're always looking at with suicides is people don't reach out and ask for help.
No.
Or if they do reach out and ask for help, it's not always readily available.
No.
What you're talking about, what suicide is all about, it doesn't usually happen 8 to 5.
Mm-mm.
That's not typically when it happens.
No, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my husband and our continuing desire forever. I think we're constantly going to be trying to get closer and kind of be better parents. Our push is to be good mentors to our kids, and we have good kids. We really do. But we could have been a lot better than we were. So we're continually moving on. We're trying to get better. And he challenged me last week. It was 5 things that you would like to see changed in your spouse. And he said, you know, Michelle, I know that you have that heart, and you always say that you're going to reach out, but you're guarded, and you never let yourself open up. So I want to see you dive into something. And it happened to be the exact same time that I contacted you about suicide prevention and how I will be able to help, but also my trepidation about doing that because it's such a burden. It's so scary to talk about. So,
You ready to talk about that?
yeah, I think.
So what happened? You kind of told us about some of the issues that were going on in your life at that time. Did suicide, is that something that just happened spontaneously? Is it something you had thought about over time?
I thought about it for years. I had been wanting to eliminate myself from the gene pool since high school. And I just so immature and knowledgeless. I just thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And, you know, I had occasional friends. I'm not the popular type, you know, I didn't really have a lot of friends, wasn't involved. No, for real. I always view myself as, you know, it was the one with the body odor and the bad breath in the corner. You know, that was what I saw myself as. And I just, I just, that's all I could think was just, you know, eliminate yourself, because I always just wanted to go home to God. And at that time I was immature enough to not to know that I don't think that's how God wants to bring you home, you know, and so I just wanted to be somewhere else.
So it sounds like, you know, and this is always there with suicides, it's like they want to stop the pain. Here's the fundamental belief that kind of drives the whole suicidal education efforts that are in every community now. People who commit suicide don't really want to die, but they can't see a reason to live. And that just sounds like it would be quite a struggle to be in a place so dark that you can't see even a glimmer of hope.
Yes, and inside for me, that dark place was the belief, because it's not a thought, it's a belief that I don't have what it takes in my brain or in my body or in my heart to do something better. I know hopelessness. Believe me, I know hopelessness. I have visited that enemy many, many times. And hopelessness is a lot more inclusive than what people talk about, you know, in outreaches and pamphlets.
So what did this all transpire into then? How did you try to
The ironic part is I didn't do anything aggressive to end myself up behind all those doors. I was pregnant. I think I was just absolutely distraught, hopeless. I went to my normal doctor's visit.
Let's go back and visit this because this is important.
Okay.
You went to your doctor. How often did you see your doctor, and what was it you complained about?
Well, it was pregnancy.
Okay.
I was just new pregnant.
So you wasn't complaining about pregnancy?
I wasn't complaining. I was in my first trimester. I was getting sick and taking vitamins, and oh my gosh, what an experience. But no, it was just a regular visit, and I went in there and I was particularly depressed. My husband was involved in...
You were depressed?
Terribly depressed.
And pregnant?
And pregnant.
Okay.
I was depressed, pregnant, in a position of not being able to do anything positive for myself or my kids, because it's really always goes back to my kids, and not knowing what to do. Just it's like complete give up, and that's what it is. So I show up at the doctor. It's 1 o'clock. I have a 1 o'clock appointment. She says, sit down. I go, okay. I sit down in the lobby. I'm in a corner by myself. I'm not reading. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting there. And I'm sitting and I'm just kind of there. And then I finally get up and go, it's kind of been a while. Are you sure that you forgot to put my file up or something? Well, it was 5:15. It had been 4 hours. And I just sat there, and to me, I wasn't asleep. I was just kind of there. I was just catatonic. And so the nurse, thank goodness, says, you know what, we might want to see you now. So they take me in the back and they sit me down, and the doctor comes in and says, how you doing? And I said, I don't even want to go home. I just don't even want to drive off a cliff. I don't want to take any pills. I just want it to be over. Just make it be over. Shut the door for me, please. I just want it to end. I want to go home to God. And that was a bad move, because the doctor said, you know what, I'll be back in a minute. And he called over to the emergency room. And the emergency room nurses came over, and they escorted me over to the emergency room. And then I proceeded to sit in the emergency room for 5-6 hours. And then I knew I was there, because I'm watching all these sick people come in and out. And I go up to the front and I say, you know what, I feel better now, I'm going home. Sorry. And they say, no. And I said, no, really, seriously, I'm going home, I feel better. I was just in a funk and I'm going home. And they said, we can't allow you off the property now. And so they took me in the back and they put me in one of those gynecological chairs. And I sat there and sat there and sat there. And so it's getting to be 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock at night, overnight. And people are coming and going and coming and going, and phone calls and this and that and this and that, and where's your insurance card and this. And all I want to do is get the heck out of there. And finally, just before sunup, I hear click, 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 and it's the EMT people, the emergency techs, and they put me in an ambulance and they take me to this place called Rio Rancho. It's in Rancho Cucamonga, California. It's a medical center, and still exhausted, mad, because I've been sitting there all that time. And I get there, they take my shoelaces. I'm a writer. Yeah. They take my pens. They take anything. They strip you of anything that you could possibly hurt yourself with. And then they take me behind door after door after door. And like I was telling you, I felt like I was in Get Smart, because it was slam, slam, slam. And then you're going around these corners, and I'm like, I'm never going to break out of here, because I don't know where I am, And they put me in there, and finally I got to come to see a psychiatric person who talked to me about the specifics about what I was so depressed about. And then they got that process going. And of course I talked to my parents, and my mom is alive. And believe me, I would not be talking to you about this if my dad hadn't died. I started healing in 2013 when my father died, and I knew he couldn't hurt me anymore. It's the first time, because my parents made me promise I never write about it, don't talk about it, don't smear the family name, don't. And so this is a big deal for me. But I talk to them, and they give me the, and they're just in their own world. It's not that they don't care, they just don't have it. And then Vince is my husband. And so he's in touch with the medical staff, and as it turns out, I stayed there for just maybe 24 hours before they released me because of insurance reasons. And my husband, beside himself, oh my gosh, beside himself, had no idea I was in such emotional trauma, took me home, called a friend of his from work who was a Christian lady at the Baptist church. She came over. She said, you know what, we have this, it's called the Christian Mothers Network, and we have this network. And we just get together and go to Carl's Jr. and let the kids run around, and we want you to come. Let's talk about this. And so we did. And they were like me. They had different challenges. And they just kind of, they didn't do anything special. They just loved me. They just were there.
It goes a long way, doesn't it, just to be cared for?
Yeah, let's gossip about our husbands. Let's talk about dinner. Let's go walking for exercise. And that little piece, and reconnecting with God, and going to church, and feeling like I was actually kind of wanted by somebody, made the difference. It gave me the strength to take the next step and go, well, maybe it's not so bad. Well, maybe there's help out there. Well, maybe I'll read a book. Well, maybe but the talking, nah, no talking.
So you kind of got to walk through all of the different elements that we teach in class, the importance of, first of all, recognizing the signs. And then when you go in to talk about when you do reach for help, sometimes it's not the kind of help that maybe one might anticipate.
Certainly took so long I didn't want to do it after that. It's like, forget this, man, I'll live.
Yeah, that sounds like that might be just a little bit frustrating.
Well, they're busy. It's an emergency room. What do you expect?
And I think that's important because when you do end up in the emergency, it's like if someone is if someone is bleeding in the next
it's a
room,
triage.
they're
Completely
definitely going to
understand.
get care before you are. Mm-hmm. But yet, if you look at suicide, and with Montana being right now, we're tied with Wyoming for first place for completed suicides.
Terrifying statistic.
It's really high. Mm-hmm. So I think, just your agreeing to kind of come and talk about some of this stuff will hopefully help people to understand that there are a lot of people that find themselves, we call it in the river of suicide. Mm. I've been in that river of suicide. And that's probably one of the reasons why I am pretty passionate about teaching and helping other people, which I think is probably what one of the reasons are for your being here. The more we can talk about issues that we struggle with, the better it is.
Well, I want to reach out. I don't know how. I know that I have things to offer now. At least I have a little self-esteem, a little bit, over time. But it's still very difficult. It's a difficult I'm willing to do, and I have a very loving husband behind me to support me. But it's going to probably be hard for a long time. But I'm happy to help any way I can.
I think that's important. You express some interest in the suicide classes. So what, this has been quite a while for you. This is like 20-some years that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So the interest is still there. What is it you think you'd like to do to help the community, to help others?
Well, when I came to Montana, I wanted to choose a charity, because I wanted to kind of get in, and I was at Seroptimus in Washington, and they did a lot of breast cancer research, and that health thing is important. In California, I was at the Red Cross. I was the PR person at Red Cross on 9/11. What a day that was. Wow.
What do you remember about that?
What do I remember at 9/11? Mm-hmm. That was, wow.
That's PTSD. Now we're talking about PTSD.
Oh, girl, I almost died too. I got hit head on in a car accident. I'm crippled forever because of that. I had to learn how to walk. I almost died. I was in a coma for 9 days. I got a lot of PTSD going on. Name your subject. I can go right through it. But I know, what's up with that? Why me? Why me?
This may take more programs, Michelle.
We may need a series or, whatever.
That had to be very traumatic, though. I just can't imagine.
Yeah. But 9/11 was, it was stunning. My dad is, among his good things, because that's the ugly part about abusers. They always have a little shard of goodness. Total news hound. And he called up and got a hold of Vince and said, hey, turn on the TV. And Vince turned on the TV, and I turned on the TV, and we were both working for the San Bernardino Sun newspaper at that time, and it's a daily, and I was working on the feature staff So I only wrote nice, happy stories, and he was working on the news staff. And so I came out there, the kids were with me, we're watching this thing happen, and we're all just absolutely stunned. None of us were even sitting down. We're just standing, in front of the TV going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then that day, Vince got a call. He got a call within 90 minutes to go to work. I got a call shortly thereafter, you got to come to the Red Cross, we got to talk about this, we got to talk about how we're going to handle it. And then the fear, the end of the world fear, oh my gosh, this is it, So the banks are going to collapse again, so I had that going on too. So I threw all three of my girls, I'm not letting my girls out of my sight, so I threw all three of my girls in the car and we went to the Red Cross. And the director, she's so sweet, she made popcorn for my kids. I bored those kids in every possible place as they were growing up. They have been bored everywhere. But we went in there and the board of directors and we all got together and talked about how are we going to handle this, how are we going to reach out to the community, and how are we going to, approach other things. And the first thing that we started with was how are we going to write that press release, that statement, how we're going to, and that's what we did that day. And afterwards I went to Costco, loaded up my cupboards just in case, the whole world died tomorrow, because none of us knew. Mm-hmm. And then we went to church. This is the only time I've ever known my church called its members. I was on the prayer chain, called the members and said, come down to the church tonight. We're just going to have an impromptu prayer service. That church was more full than any holiday, any Easter, any Christmas. Everybody was packed in. Everybody was terrified. And we spent 90 minutes praying, anyway, 6 weeks after that, 2 days before my youngest daughter turned 8, I was driving down Route 66 in a brand new car, minding my own business, just completely innocent, and some teenage girl is reckless driving on the other side, loses control of her car, hits the curb on the other side, ricochets into me. I go spinning one way, she goes spinning another way, and my car, I'm crushed underneath my car.
Oh my gosh, this sounds like we're going to have to do another program, because right now we have to wrap up on this. We're in our last minute now, but I think it's important to just let the audience know how important it is that we share our stories. This was quite a story that you shared with us today. And to remember that there's always help out there. It may not come in the form that you think it will or in the time that you think it will, but I think if you have patience, hope, and you reach out is going to be the first step in this whole issue of suicide. Michelle, I appreciate you coming today, sharing your story, and I look forward to, I think we're just going to have to do another program. Thank you, viewers, for joining us today. Again.
Good Medicine is your program. We hope you watch this and subsequent programs to stay informed about your health care. And we'd like to hear from you about how we're doing. Please direct any comments or suggestions you have to us. You can reach us at